All right, welcome to another edition of the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com, and thank you for making us a part of your week. New episodes drop every Friday here through Backsports Page and where you can find all podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We are all over the place, Google Podcast. Any platform we want, we are there. Wherever you listen to all your podcasts, you can find the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast, courtesy of backsportspage.com. I'd like to thank Andrew Fiume and Elisa Dukas for all of the work they've been doing through behind the scenes here at the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. And let's jump into some news before we jump into O'Shea Edwards from Shane Taylor Promotions, courtesy of Ring of Honor. Right now, let's jump into a little bit of news and notes going around the wrestling world. Right now, the WWE catching a little backfire because their WWE NXT UK star Walter has come in and gone with his name change, going on with Gunther and all these different type of controversy that's going on on how everybody knows him as Walter and now coming over and changing his name as soon as he makes it over to regular NXT. So there been a lot of backlash, backfire, and even AEW star Cody Rhodes making reference to it during AEW Dynamite last night. And speaking of AEW, man, what a show. Jon Moxley returning in the opening segment, addressing that he is officially back from his rehab stint that he went in for back in, I believe it was in October, where he went back and was able to straighten out his personal demons. Cody Rhodes came out with a very passionate promo. Rumor going on right now, Cody Rhodes working without a contract as an executive VP, and of course the TNT champion, which sets up a ladder match. I liked the promo from Cody. It's been a long time since we've seen a very fiery Cody Rhodes, and I think that's one of the reasons why fans have been so turned off by Cody lately. He's been sort of like the Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, and he even referenced the fact that he has not turned heel as of yet. I really enjoyed Cody's promo last night. Look, the action last night on Dynamite, very, very simple. Orange Cassidy and Chris Stratlander versus Adam Cole and Britt Baker. Hell of a match. Tore the house down, and of course the main event was what it was with Sting and Darby Allin versus the Acclaimed. I like the Acclaim. I think it's only a matter of time till the Acclaim turn babyface and be the most popular tag team they have. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little burnt out of the Darby Allin Sting combination. As much as they are, Sting is a legend, he's a mentor to Darby. I don't know how much longer, fans are going to really dig this Darby Allin character. It's been a long time now. I would love to see a heel turn, maybe him turn on Sting and actually feud with Sting. But Sting is 60-something years old. You're only getting a little bit out of him at a time. It's gonna be very interesting to see where that goes. The other news and notes. Sean Spears, his wife Cassie Lee, tweeted out last night that he only lost within like 30 seconds of against CM Punk. The CM Punk MJF storyline has been growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's been very, 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 very good. I think it's one of the most interesting parts of AEW Dynamite. And what's amazing about AEW Dynamite is they don't oversaturate their guys. You're not seeing Bryan Danielson and Miro, Kenny Omega, and even the Hangman Adam Page, their world champion, every single week for the 5 segments of the show like WWE. I'm not meaning to attack WWE, but look, we're going to call it like it is. WWE feels like a stale WCW product right now with what they're producing. There's a couple little good little nuggets here and there. I think Kevin Owens has always been a good segment. I've always enjoyed Sami Zayn. The stuff with Sami Zayn and Brock Lesnar a couple weeks ago was very, very funny. Of course, the Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar feud, which is going to take off at WrestleMania. Facebook page a couple days ago that WWE officially nixed the idea of having champion versus champion. They're not going to do that at WrestleMania. It's probably going to be Brock Lesnar defending the WWE Championship against Roman Reigns. Okay, so this week's show, we have O'Shea Edwards of Shane Taylor Promotions. He was a big part of Ring of Honor for a long time, up until Ring of Honor went dark a couple weeks ago. We had the opportunity to sit down with him at Ridgefield Park. You can go back to our We Are Wrestling episode we had a couple weeks back. In this episode, though, it's me and O'Shea Edwards going one-on-one, talking about everything from Ring of Honor, Shane Taylor Promotions, his start in wrestling. He took a gamble on himself, and it certainly paid off. Check out O'Shea Edwards right now here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. All right, we're back here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. O'Shea Edwards, Shane Taylor Promotions, joining me right now. Those who remember our We Are Wrestling video clips, we got to speak to O'Shea out in Ridgefield Park. O'Shea, thanks for giving us a few minutes and being able to sort of a little bit go more in depth, be able to tell your story. So thanks for giving us a few minutes, man.
Yeah, man, no problem, man. Appreciate you having me.
So last time we spoke with you, we were on the cusp of the final Ring of Honor show. Before we go to the beginning of your story, let's just go back and discuss what that night meant to you. What was the attitude? What was the general feeling? When we spoke in Ridgefield Park, you said you were not sure on what was really going to happen. How did the night play out, in your opinion, the final Ring of Honor show?
Man, as bittersweet as it was, man, it was everything, it could have been. Like I said the night before, man, like I told everybody, like, if this is going to be the last time, then, let's go play in the sunlight, one more time. So, like, the future's uncertain, like everything else. But everything's stuff like that so outside of my control that I can't really figure out, what people want to do, because I just can't. But in terms of how the show went, man, it couldn't went any. If there's any other way to send out Ring of Honor, somebody's gonna have to explain it to me, because to me it went off without a hitch, man. It was great, real emotional, like behind the scenes, all that good stuff. Because for a lot of people, it was for a lot of people, it was one of those things. It was like it's gonna be the last time some of us were actually going to see each other, But no, like I said, it's kind of hard to really put into words of like how it felt. But for me, I went out exactly the way I would have wanted to go out. It must be good news to hear that they are planning some different shows. They announced some stuff during WrestleMania weekend. So it's not like the company's going away. Maybe it really is like usually when a company says, we're going to take a little hiatus, everyone has that feeling of doubt. But now that you're starting to see that there's some announcements coming, it must be giving you a good feeling, saying, okay, they're not going away, and we might be coming back, but it's be a different cast of characters coming back. Right. And that's pretty much how, like, everyone's taking it, and then even from there, it's just like, what does that mean? And like I said, for a lot of people, we're just like, man, we will find out when we get there, because nobody, man, it's so up in the air with a lot of different people. It's so outside of everyone's really control in terms of, like, what we're, what we want to do. So, it's a strange time, but usually, this is where change comes. So we're all kind of like, not so much getting ready. It's like we're already been ready. So now we're just trying to, when that time comes and when that phone call happens, we're all ready to go. What is something that fans don't understand about the business side of professional wrestling? Obviously, the in-ring action, and then there's the online. Everyone wants to see who's jumping where, who's going where. But talk about the business side of it. What is something that the fans probably don't understand that a wrestler has to go through as far as the business is concerned? Man, wrestling's fickle. Wrestling is very, very, very fickle, and you are constantly having to, go with the ebbs and flows of, what's kind of hot right now. Like in wrestling right now, the real big thing is, like, a lot of guys really start to get to pure wrestling, which rightfully so. It's great art. For a while, deathmatch wrestling kind of had its time in the sun. So it all comes in like cycles and, all that good stuff. So now we're just kind of waiting. Some of us are waiting for the age of the big men to come back. So some of us can have our time to do what we got to do. But there's the joy of wrestling, man, is there's so many different forms of it. There's so many levels of nuance within wrestling. And just because you may not like something, which is perfectly fine, doesn't mean like the next guy's not. There's always room for everything on the card. I say that, but of course with some things, it's like, hey, it's all this show. So you may not want that on the show because it kind of gets the flow. And then one thing people don't understand is it is a business. This is a business. A lot of people keep saying, oh, you'd have more of this on the show, and which always gets responded with, well, you run your show, and then you can put whatever you want to put on that show. Somebody doesn't put a certain person on the show, which is sometimes the way the business goes is, maybe that person couldn't be on the show. Maybe they couldn't maybe the money didn't work out, maybe the event didn't work out, so there's so many different, like I use a level of nuance that goes into these decisions put on these shows that most people don't think about, but a lot of people tend to make this knee-jerk reaction in terms of like, oh, well, they don't have this on the show, so it must be this. No, guys, that's not it. This is a business. We're in the business of trying to make money. We're trying to put the right people on a show. We're trying to put the right people on TV that will make us money. Sometimes that's a little easier to convey to other people than some, and some people get it and some people don't.
It's funny. Mick Foley gave it a example back in the 90s about professional wrestling, and I feel like it sort of went away. And I'm not saying it to be a bad thing towards WWE, but WWE sort of went away for it. And for the longest time, since they were the only show in town, this is what it was. But Mick Foley used to compare professional wrestling to the circus. If you don't like the bearded lady act, you might like the tightrope walkers, but there's a little something in there for everybody. Do you think right now, because of where we are with Impact Wrestling, obviously with Ring of Honor, whatever the situation is going to be, it's going to be, but with MLW, AEW, WWE, that they're giving us the opportunity to sort of have that opportunity to have, well, okay, if you don't like what they're doing here, you might like what they're doing here. If this promotion's not doing it like you do it, you have this promotion here. Do you think we're getting back to a point where wrestling is offering that?
I hope so. Only reason why I say that is because, like, why not? Never is there ever a good thing when there's a monopoly. Because when a monopoly, I always say that people start resting on their laurels, and people start, oh, well, we're the only show in town, so we can do whatever we want to. Look at the NFL. There's a while the NFL was just like garbage. Like, what is this? Oh. This is horrible. And then all of a sudden the XFL pops up out of nowhere. And then, granted, was it like the most polished thing on TV? God, no. But was it brand just something else to watch? Hell yeah, it was. And to get wrestling back to that point is great. It's one of the reasons why I love the indies, because, like, guys, if you don't like this, that's okay. People are allowed not to like something. With that same breath, though, people are allowed to like something. I can't say that enough. Just because it doesn't mean the next person won't. Just because you like it doesn't mean the next person will. It's okay. We're not the same person. We're allowed to like different type of stuff. Like, I love rap music. Does that mean I like all of rap music? No. Some of it I think is complete horseshit. But I still like it. I like what I like. I don't like what I like. It's okay. The police aren't going to come and get me because, oh, you don't like this guy? Well, how dare I? It's not my cup of tea. Same thing with wrestling. There's some wrestling that I absolutely love and absolutely enjoy, and I watch all the time. And then there's some I'm just like, man, I don't get it. But can I appreciate the art, and can I respect the guys that go out there and do it? Of course I can. Because why would I knock something that I know, one, I'm not going to go do? So, like, why would I knock it? So I'm excited to see what the landscape of wrestling is going, especially with the amount of talent that's out there now. There's a chance for a lot of first-time matchups that most people never thought about having until, like, it happens. So I'm excited for it. I'm glad to be in the mix, of getting the matches I've always wanted since I first started.
Yeah, and let's talk about your story a little bit. You and I had the opportunity to meet in Ridgefield Park, and it was one of the first times. I watched Ring of Honor, but it was the first time I got to see you sort of on your own and have a one-on-one match, and then it was a hell of a battle. But my wife looked at me right after the match and goes, "Is he okay?" I'm like, "I hope so." He took a door. You guys took a door and smashing it on each other's head, man. And that was the definition of hardcore wrestling, which I haven't seen in a long time. But for you, when did your love of professional wrestling start?
Man, I've been a fan since I was like 8. Been a fan since I was 8. Dad took me to my first WWE at the time, WWF. There goes my age. A house show in Madison Square Garden, and I fell in love with Ahmed Johnson the first time I saw him. And then it kind of just grew from there. I was off and on for a little while, because grew up in the South. Really, all you had was WCW at the time until, like, Monday Night Raw became a thing. But even still, I was a big WCW kid because that's what I grew up on. And then as I got a little older, I kind of faded off a little bit, here and there, because after a while, kind of got corny. I was like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. Kind of stopped watching. But it wasn't until I started getting into like Ring of Honor and some of the other smaller shows that love started to grow again. And eventually I was just like, yo, I think I can do this. And I just kind of took a chance on myself, man. Kind of figure out like, yeah, let's see if I can do this. If I can't, all right, what have I lost? A few hours out of my day and, a few bucks. Okay, whatever. But at least I can say I tried it and no one can say that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Where did you,
Mhm.
I was about to say, and how did you discover the wrestling school and what age?
Man, that was hard just because there's so many schools at the time. You had at the time, um, the power plant that was under a different name. That was WW School. Power plant was a different name. You also had WWA 4 at the time, was held up by Mr. Hughes. But there was Johnny Swinger. Actually, he's in Impact now. He was running just kind of like a drop in type. Hey man, let's see if this is for you type deal. And that was kind of I was an adult by the time I started wrestling. I wasn't a kid. But at the same time, I was like, oh, cool for, hey, $20, 2-3 days a week. 20 bucks to drop in, kind of see if I can learn the ropes a little bit. And I did. So I was with him. He's the one who kind of got me on my way. I was in for about like 6-7 months. And then I got an opportunity to train with Robert Gibson. He has Douglasville, Georgia, like maybe like an hour west out of Atlanta. And I ran across some of his students and they were like, yo, man, you got to come out here. Like, you got to come out this way. You got to train. Robert will absolutely love you. And I was with Robert for the rest of that time. Then the best thing about Johnny is when I went to go train with Robert, I asked him, hey, is it cool that I go train with Robert? I kind of got an invite to go. And Johnny was very like, yeah, please go do that. He goes, I gave you the building blocks how to wrestle, but Robert will fill in the gaps. He goes, I can't teach you everything. I'm not even going to sit there and claim that I can teach you everything. He goes, but if there's anybody who can come close to teach you everything, Robert can. And so I just kind of went from there. Kind of took my seminars here and there, from guys that I wanted to learn from, guys who I wanted to emulate, in a sense, and get a better grip of like my footwork and my basics and everything like that until I got a chance to, like 2016, I flew up to Philly and went to my first Ring of Honor tryout. I just wanted to see where I stood with everyone else. Because to me, Ring of Honor is already where I want to be. That was my level of success. I never had these images of grandeur where I was going to make the Tokyo Dome or I was going to Square Garden. Like, I got it. I was like, come on, man. Everyone can't play in the Super Bowl. Like, I understand. But still, I just wanted to be in front of a crowd. My thing is, if I was going to do this, I'm going to do this to the best of my ability, and then take every opportunity that I can. So the very first time I was in there, man, I was nervous. First few times I was actually nervous. In ring at the time wasn't that great. I'll be the first one to tell. Like, nah, wasn't that great. I was wrestling for like maybe over a year at that point in time. Like, enough to know I really shouldn't have been up there. If I was like, screw it, here I am. But my promo game was top notch. They were like, just need basically, it's like, hey man, your biggest problem is you're wrestling guys who I was like, you never really got a chance to wrestle people who were better than you. And I was like, yeah, that's a fair assessment. So their big advice was, hey man, look, you got to go out there and you got to start wrestling more people. You got to start wrestling guys who are better than you. It's the only way you're going to grow. And it's like, but this isn't a no, this is not yet. And so for 2 years, I just got on the road and I just grind and grind and grind. I was driving to Chicago by myself. I was, paying my own way to get to New York and some of these other places and And it wasn't until I started getting into like Mississippi and Tennessee that really started to take off. It really started becoming its own little thing. Then I come back up here and actually Ring of Honor moved to Baltimore, and I did it against another tryout camp. And when I walked in the door and we do promos for the first day, a lot of guys who were kind of putting on the camp, they were like, hey man, you're going to want to see this. Like, this kid came 2 years ago. He's gotten better. And so I knew for a fact, like, all eyes were on me because one, I've been here before. So I know the tricks. I know the gambit. I know I got the Iggy, if you will, about what's going on. So, everyone else is there kind of like, oh, I'm here to learn. And I kind of looked at everybody else and I'm here for a job. So like, what are you guys here for? I'm here for a job. And for 2 days, man, I just kind of everything I ever learned. And at that time, those 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Anything I've ever learned, I put right into those 2 days. And when it was all said and done, they're like, hey, man, do you want to come up here and train with us? We can't promise anything, but, we can, if you come up here and you show us everything you showed us today, the sky's the limit for you. So, it's kind of at that point in time, I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, I quit my job, moved up to Baltimore, and be honest with you, man, it's probably one of the best things I ever did.
It must have been really nerve-wracking too. They're saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it a shot. And if it doesn't, there's no safety net in that sense. And there's a lot of people who are scared to do that. There's a lot of people who won't do that in life. They want to have that safety net. They want to have that. Was there any reservations about doing it, or was it like, this is a no-brainer, I got to do?
Oh man, there was no reservation what I wanted to do. Not at all, man. There was, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. This, like I said, this is what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be a wrestler. It's one of the few times where I did something on the first day and I had it. I'm like, I got it. Like, I got this, man. This is like a duck in water. Like, nope, I got it. Let's go. So for me, I'm always trying to learn more. I'll forever be a student of the game. Like, even before this, I was kind of watching some wrestling, just really just doing some little low-key film study for myself, just some stuff I may like to do, try to see where guys' minds at when they're doing a certain move, blah, blah, blah. So I'm always asking questions, like, why are we doing this? Why would you do this when you can probably do this? Something that's other. And it's not really to be disrespectful. It's just, I like to know where guys' brains are at when they're thinking about certain stuff. It's one thing just kind of do a move, but my biggest thing is, why are we doing this move?
Can you talk about that first, when you went up to train and become part of the Ring of Honor roster, what the mindset and what do you remember about that first experience with Ring of Honor, going out there in the crowd for the first time?
Man, the first time in the crowd was, I wasn't even on the show, but I was kind of coming out with, it was Best in the World. That was first for the COVID era, is the first time we had like fans back. And it was insane. Like, I got goosebumps just to come out there with them, and all the stuff that we did on like social media and everything. It was the accumulation of all that work. It felt great, man. I think we had like 1,200 people at the time. To us, it was a beautiful moment, just because it was like, for us, it's like people are listening, people are watching, and people are talking. Let it be negative or positive, people are talking. I'll take it, just as long as they're talking. Like, I'll take it. So it was so cool to be out there, and then to get a chance to perform for the first time was even better. Just because there's nothing like getting a chance to perform in front of like people, when you hadn't had that chance yet. I told before, I was like, y'all talked a lot of shit to get here. I talked a lot of shit, and I talked so much crap that I can't fail. I cannot fail. I talked way too much trash for me to trip up now, because the minute they like, oh, see, I told you he wasn't ready. So for me, it was an accumulation of all the hard work, but I knew for a fact I was just getting started.
And then also during the pandemic, it was probably very difficult. Like you said, I talked about this a little bit in Richfield Park. The pandemic was a little difficult for all wrestlers, but I think it also gave them a wake-up call on the things they can work on to get better. What were some of the things that you were able to improve on yourself during the pandemic with no audience there?
Honestly, it all boiled down to character development. Just working on, I was always good. I was always a talker. I always talk people into a building, but it's one thing to, like, for me, I started getting into the mind frame of like, I wanted to create movies, little 2-minute movies about what's happening. I wanted to get you within my words, but I want you to watch what I was saying and how I was saying it and why I was saying it. Because I love nuance when I wrestle. I love nuance when I create promos, because I want to reward those who pay attention. I want to reward those who watch. If I say like, hey, I'm gonna break your back, and I go to the ring and everything I'll start working on is the back, he's like, oh man, he said he was gonna do this. He said he was gonna do this. So for me, it's like, what I do before the bell and what I do after the bell rings, to me, they all have to come together. They have to like mesh. Because if not, like, what's the, what are we doing? I've just, in my mind, I've sold a false bill of goods.
To me, I remember watching all the different shows during the pandemic, and Impact and ROH didn't have crowds there. AEW had the wrestlers at ringside and select fans for a little while, and the WWE did the big Thunderdome, which
Yeah.
I had a hard time with the Thunderdome. I really did. In your opinion, for after the pandemic, with fans going out and the independents started opening up again, the work that you did with Ring of Honor, how important was that TV time for you going back to the independents? And did it give you, I don't want to say a financial boost, but was it able to give you a little bit more notoriety to help get you more gigs in that sense, being a part of Ring of Honor?
Well, it was a definitely financial boost. Like, make no financial boost. But yeah, everything you just said was spot on. It gave me more leverage in terms of like what I was asking, why I was asking it. But then at the same time, it gave me more leeway in terms of people I want with. Like I'm on TV, I do pay-per-views. So when you get a chance to, work somebody, everyone wants to give you like their best, which is all everyone want. It's like, if you be in the ring with me, I'm expecting that I'm getting your A game. Because anything else, like, I'm going to find out. And if I find out, I'm going to drag you. Like, I was going to drag you across this ring. But no, it was like I said, for me, being able to work TV, man, it just gave me a better idea of where I was at, gave me a better idea of where I'm going. I use frame of knowing where the camera is without knowing where the camera is at the same time. I also have a tendency of where I hear the crowd when there is one. I just don't see them, because for me, I'm not wrestling for the crowd. I never wrestle. I'm wrestling because it's what I want to do. The fact is, people in the crowd, they paid $20 to watch me do what I like to do the best and what I'm really, really good at. So I'm not going to wrestle for you. You're coming for you're paying for the privilege to come along with me. And, from there, it just kind of comes into its own, because I'm not here to placate. I'm like, nah, man, this is what I'm doing today. This is pretty much like, as a chef, is you don't tell me what I'm going to cook. I'm going to cook something. You're going to eat it. You're going to like it. At the end of the day, for it.
Yeah, and you're going to want more. Exactly. Yeah. Now, can you talk to me how the relationship with Shane Taylor Promotions started?
Yeah, man, it's great. It's one of the few things. Well, I'm like this. With the exception being the foundation, we're the only group that after Ring of Honor, we're still a group. We're still a group. The foundation pops up when they're on the same show. Well, me, Shane, Moses, Jasper, Khan, and Ron, we gonna be on 5 different shows. We're still STP, no matter like what show we're on. Let it be 1 of us, 2 of us, 3 of us, or 5 of us, doesn't matter. We're still STP. And on that, we're all friends. Like, we're all legitimate, like, friends. We're brothers. We talk to each other at least once a day. We're on the big group chat. We talk to each other at least once a day. We all check in. So it's one of those where we all understand what wrestling is. If one person can make it, dude, go make your money. Like, go make it. But we all know, like, we're still a crew. Like, it doesn't matter. If somebody can go off and do something great and it could open the door for the rest of us, cool. We're not expecting anything from that. But hey, man, one of our own is going farther than we ever could. And that's also, we'll continue to support that. We always want to make sure that everybody in our group gets their flowers, gets their money, gets their food, but it is never like, oh, I guess, you forgot about it. I was like, no, man, do what you got to do. We get it. It's a business. It's the reason why I like, being a part of STP. It's everything I've always ever wanted. When I was coming up, is what I always wanted, was that one group that, like, I can look at like, yo, I want to be like those guys, or yo, I want to wrestle those guys.
Well, and that's funny too, because you see in wrestling different factions, and you just like you can tell that a lot of them are just they look tight on TV, but they're just there working with each other, and everyone goes separate ways. Come back to TV, and it's like, but like the way you're describing it, it's like a family, and that's cool. And obviously, you guys want to all see yourselves successful. In a perfect world where money is not an issue, and you had an opportunity to say, Shane Taylor Promotions would look really good here, where would here be?
New Japan. New Japan. No, because no one else looks like us. It really is like New Japan or Impact. No one really looks like us. And then doing what we're doing on such a level. I think we can set the bar so many different ways. I think we can really, like, pardon the pun, but make an impact so many different ways. I do believe we can move the needle. You know,
yeah, I can see that. I would say, especially with Impact, because I feel like Impact right now is on an uptick because of the Mickey James announcement, and there's some different things going on there. I think that could definitely really be really good for you guys. I got to ask this question because you're down in Baltimore, and I know you're a football guy because you definitely used the football analogy a bunch of different times. And I know you and I spoke a little bit briefly about who your NFL team is. You said it was the Ravens, correct? Lamar killed you, not being out there, and then the injuries and COVID and everything.
Yeah,
what do you think the Ravens got to do, man, to get back at it besides Lamar getting healthy?
It's healthy, man. Listen, you lost J.K. Dobbins before the season even started. Then you lost your backup to him before the season even started. The secondary was suspect at best. It's like, what is this going to be? But at the same time, man, you know, it's professional football. I'm from Georgia, so I'm a big Georgia boy. So like Monday, like Ravens gonna lose, but I'm like, don't care. Georgia's national champions. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Look, it could be worse, man. As you see on the background here, I do a lot of stuff with the Giants. You know what's been going on up here with the Giants. Like I had to sit through the owner call yesterday, and him just saying, "I'm sorry," to everybody. He kept on saying, "I'm sorry," but nothing could be as tough as that. So, where are you the next couple weeks? Let's plug where you're going to be, and also let's plug social media. Where are you going to be the next couple
Sure.
weekends?
This weekend I got Catalyst Wrestling out in the Bronx, really. So that ought to be fun. Then in February, I'm in Indiana at PPW, and then I have a show in Indianapolis. I got IWC in New York. I got Fight Club Pro in DC. Like February is a really busy month. I'm kind of excited because then I get to tour basically Massachusetts on the end of February, and then going into March. You know, I got a lot of dates still to plug in, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, you know, I appreciate the time I get off. It allows me to kind of like reconnect with some other stuff and kind of like step away from wrestling a little bit. December was really, really busy. So not having this many dates in January was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it allowed me to like recuperate and recover and kind of like just take a minute to like unplug and decompress a little bit and kind of just chill. So, but socials, man, you find me on Twitter, Big Bad Kaiju, BIGBADKAIJU. And then for Instagram, it's the same thing, but period after every single word.
Cool. All right. You can follow O'Shea Edwards on social media, and if he's coming to a town near you, definitely go out and see him, support him. Definitely worth the money to go see it, to get yourself a ticket to go see it. And thanks for coming on to the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast today, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, that was O'Shea Edwards here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. What a great dude. We had the pleasure of sitting down with him in Ridgefield Park, and he's just a great guy. He has high aspirations for himself, took a lot of gambles. He's looking to find himself in either New Japan or in AEW. If you have the opportunity to go out and see him and follow him, man, go out there. He is a great guy. And we're glad to have him here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. Special thanks to our staff, Alyssa and Andrew, for all the work that you guys do. Next week, Charlie Haas. That's from the world's greatest tag team, Team Angle. Great career in the WWE and Ring of Honor. Looking forward to sitting down with him and talking with him about his career next week here on the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, as well on all of our podcast platforms and iHeartRadio, and soon to be Cave Talk Radio. We'll get more details into that next week. Until then, my name is Randy Zellea from BackSportsPage.com, and this has been the Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast.